All right, shout out to the fam. Welcome. Now, rock with the Sports Como, Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fan. Appreciate you guys being on our Thursday episode of the Coma. Please do us a service by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and by all means, feeling free to share the show on your social media feed. Also, hit the notification bell for future content. This show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. Get on your bets, man. Whatever bets you have for whether it's the NBA, NHL, basketball, pro basketball, the women's game, tennis, UFC, whatever it is, get your bets in at FanDuel. And of course, right now, what I got on the screen here is the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl here. As you can see, the line is the Patriots are given a 4.5 point favorite in the Super Bowl matchup. So if you with that, get on FanDuel and get your bet in. Also, feel free to check us out on patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. That's patreon.com/the Pro Media Network, where you can find a lot of content and join the inner circle. Shout out to our Patreon champions, where we do TSC Q&A. That's available for our Patreon YouTube membership. And for our Patreon membership, we also have the On Q with Big Q news show that's exclusive for Patreon. You get a lot of the real stuff that we be talking about on that side. And plus, your membership helps to continue to further build the platform. As you can see, making a lot of improvements, moving forward, doing a lot of great things in 2026. And we want to keep this thing going. So if you want to help us build stronger into the future and see results, man, hit the patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. The link is in the description section, is also in the chat. Y'all check that out. All right, anyway, let's get into this show, man. Let's get in this episode of the Coma. We're going to talk about several news, notes, and items. We're going to cover the waterfront on a few items. We're going to talk about Alontae Taylor. There's some rumored news coming up from some of our reporter friends is talking about Alontae Taylor and possible destinations. We're going to get on that. We're going to also talk about the Senior Bowl. We're going to get a Senior Bowl update, talk about what's happening on day one or of the Senior Bowl that's going on. I'd rather give an update with the Senior Bowl. We'll talk about several news, notes, and items regarding that. We'll also talk about some of the predictions of some of the free agents. Should they stay or go? We'll go over that article. And also, we'll talk a little NFL on the back end of covering our Saints stuff. We'll talk about yesterday, we covered the fact that the Brownies were looking for a coach. They was talking about Schwartz. They had some type of negative reaction Schwartz had. They must have heard the show. Because I was like, whatever you do, do not hire Jim Schwartz as your head coach, man. I mean, seriously. And they did not. They hired somebody else. And we'll go over that as well in this episode. We'll also talk about the fact that Tom Brady mentioned Bill Belichick and the fact that Bill Belichick was snubbed for the Hall of Fame. Now, we'll get into it, man, but that's really interesting to say the least. We'll go over the article, and I want you guys to put your thoughts in the comment section and let me know how you feel about that snubbing, and I'll give you my thoughts as well. So anyway, let's get right on into the broadcast. We'll start off with the Alontae Taylor. Stay or go. Is Alontae Taylor staying or going? Let's hit this article up right here talking about Alontae Taylor. Y'all hit that like button. Alontae Taylor gets murky pre-free agent update. So pre-free agency update for Alontae Taylor. So Saints have Alontae Taylor in the secondary for 2026, will they? A few months ago, it didn't seem likely at all when the trade deadline was approaching. Taylor and Rashid Shaheed were among the most talked about trade candidates on the Saints' radar. Now, Rashid ended up going to Seattle, where he was a big part of helping them to get to the bowl. Boy, what a help that ended up bringing for Rashid Shaheed and the family. Boy, what a blessing that was. At the time, it was a surprising decision. The Saints had a lack of draft capital and it looked like it was approaching a full-scale rebuild. The Saints turned things around in the second half of the season, though, once they turned the reins over to Tyler Shuck as the team's starting quarterback. Saints cornerback is among the most intriguing free agents. The Saints kept Taylor, and now they will have to decide whether they should let him walk in free agency or hand him a new deal. On Wednesday, ESPN shared a column on re-signing decisions for each franchise. Shout out to Kat Terrell of ESPN. Gave a look at Alontae Taylor's market. Now, she said New Orleans Saints DB Alontae Taylor, while the Saints have several older veterans with voiding contracts, what do they do with the 27-year-old Alontae Taylor will be the biggest storyline to watch in the 2026 free agency period. Now, the Saints have parted ways with some of their starting defensive backs in recent memory, trading Marshawn Lattimore to Washington in 2024, letting Paulson Adebo leave in free agency last year. So it's not a given that they would resign him this year. Now, Taylor played all 17 games for the past 3 seasons for the Saints. He can play both inside and outside and had 2 picks in 2025. The fact that an insider of Cat Terrell's caliber is saying it's not a given Taylor returns isn't a great sign, but the team arguably should prioritize a deal. Now, Taylor's a 27-year-old and is projected to land a 3-year deal worth north of $33 million, according to Spotrac. Now, last year, 7 cornerbacks earned more in free agency. Paulson Adebo, Carlton Davis, Travarius Ward, Byron Murphy all got $54 million contracts across 3 years. Nate Hobbs got $48 million across 4 seasons. DJ Reed got 48 over 3 seasons. Brandon Stevenson got 36 over 3 years from last year's biggest deal. That shows that Taylor's $33 million projection is a fair value and maybe even a bit below market. If the Saints could get a deal like that done, it would be for the best. Now, listen, we talked about this before, didn't we? When we went over the same, when they mentioned Sport Track, we mentioned and talked about the depressed economy in terms of the numbers for Alontae Taylor. I even said on this show and also on our Patreon stream that I believe that Alontae Taylor, if you can get Alontae Taylor at $33 million, that's $11 million a year, I would go for that. Hell, I would even go as rich as $12 million for Alontae Taylor. I really would. Because Alontae Taylor is a player that doesn't get in trouble. He's a guy that plays seamlessly in Coach Staley's defense. He's an excellent tackler. Now he has to work on getting interceptions, right? Getting more interceptions because he dropped quite a few of them. Plus his coverage skills are questionable. He needs to, we need to kind of work on his coverage skills, his man-to-man ability when, and this sort of thing. So outside of that, I think Alontae Taylor could improve because if you're paying Alontae $11 to $12 million a season, whether it's $33 to $36 million over the next 3 seasons to keep him in New Orleans, I think you're doing a service. I think you're doing a terrific service. I think Alontae Taylor, once you pay him that money, he'll step up and he will get better from what he is now, and then he'll be more of a complete cornerback, a defensive back rather, for you as a New Orleans Saint player. So that's my take. And yes, indeed, it is very obvious that Alontae Taylor is in a situation where the Saints are doing market projections. We've said this before, and I'll continue to say it again. There's a market projection by the Saints because if they felt like the market was down on the cornerback's price tag, the Saints would have read up with Alontae Taylor last year. When they knew it was his last year going into the contract. Last year they could have renegotiated or extended his contract last year during the season or before the season started. We knew it was both Alontae Taylor, Rashid Shaheed, several players, bigger names like Cam and Demario and all these other Taysom, Foster. We knew this was their last year coming up before it got here. So if that is indeed the case, then we would have done negotiations or even talked about it prior to it. But the fact of the matter that the Saints allow it to just go right into it. Now, like I said, they could have we know they were talking to Chris Olave. We know that was the case, right? We know that Chris Olave was a guy that you could have really tabled the talks because you still have Chris Olave on a 1-year deal that because they picked up the option of $15 million for this year. So they could have tabled the talks and concentrated on Alontae Taylor if that's indeed the case, right? They don't seem to be motivated to, get a lot of stuff done, and it'll be interesting to see how they move if they can kick it into higher gear because this is a very important season because there are several players that are looking for extensions or new deals rather. Alontae Taylor here would be a good get at $11 million, even $12 million. I would bring Alontae Taylor back. I think that's good money. But when you think about what I was talking about before, and like Kat mentioned, the $18 million that Paulson the Debo ain't nowhere in the world. Ain't nowhere in the world I'm paying $18 million. I just go into the draft and get somebody else. But 11 or $12 million for Alontae Taylor a year, and we're looking at 33 to $36 million over the next 3 years. That's a winner for me. But Alontae Taylor is looking to bank out. And remember, some free agency listings have him listed as the second best defensive back in free agency, which means teams who are needing of cornerbacks are going to look to Alontae Taylor, and they could definitely price his price is going to inflate. No doubt about it. It won't stay at 11 or 12 million or whatever it is at now. It is definitely going to go north of 15 million. If it's going north of 15 million, he's going to be priced out of New Orleans. And I think the Saints, by their posturing, they don't seem like they really worried about it. Like I said, they're not really worried about it. If they wanted Alontae prior to him hitting the free agency market, we would have read up with him last year. At some point before the start of last year or during last year, while we still had a contract, he is unrestricted and can go wherever he wants to go. So we'll see what it is and how it is, but just be prepared to know if you want to talk about a lot of people that could possibly be on the outside looking in, and so far as coming back to the Saints, I would have to say Alontae Taylor to me is probably the guy, the number one guy, family, to be honest with you. When we talking about guys that the team could lose, Alontae Taylor, he definitely the guy that I'm thinking that I had to put a check down for. That's possibly a guy that's probably not going to be here as a Saint next year, and we'll see how that goes. So I want him to be here, but it's up to the Saints. They have to make the money work and make all of that, happen. All right, let's move to the next topic of discussion, baby. Let's talk more about this. Just kind of give us the proper segue into Saints wires. Good commentary on when they're talking about stay or go, right? They're talking about stay or go in this episode. Actually, in this segment of the coma, y'all hit the like button. Stay or go for our free agents. And of course, John Sigler, shout out to him. He goes down a number of lists. He mentions the snap count and the contribution according to statistics to go along with some of the players and thought processes on whether some of these players should stay or go. Right? We Alontae Taylor. Now we got all these other players we're going to count for. Now the big name starters that's drawing the attention in this round of stay and go, according to the Saints wires, Demario Davis at the top of the list. Right? Davis led the team. He played 98.3% of the snaps on the defense, which is that's impressive for a 37-year-old NFL's oldest linebacker. He's still performing at a high level, but this may be his last payday. If Davis, it's definitely going to be the last payday. If Davis gets a big offer from a Super Bowl contender, nobody should blame him for taking it. We're guessing the money will be comparable, and the Saints being loyal to a fault keeps him in New Orleans despite outside interest. The prediction is for Demario to stay. Now, listen, I don't think Demario Davis is going anywhere. I think what he's doing is artificially and I ain't gonna say artificially inflating his market because what his this last year spoke for itself. 140 plus tackles, which was a career high. Him getting in this illustrious career. How the defense performed on the back end. How he was able to just be the brains and main contributor and the leader that we knew he needed to be for the defense to have success. No doubt about it. In a sane world, this is an easy get, right? But then when you come down to it, the Saints have to make a decision on it because Demario Davis is letting you know if I'm work for the NFL. That's what he told Kay. Shout out to her. When he said that, what it meant was that he's going to pour some gasoline on the fire for him to kind of let everybody else know that, hey man, I'm not just I can roll with y'all. I'm not just out here looking to be with the Saints. If y'all need some help and y'all want to get over the top, y'all can call me and come and talk to me. And that's a way to bring suitors in, and maybe they can help inflate the cost that Demario Davis is going to ask for. Now, like I said, they want Demario Davis wants to come back, but at his price tag, right? Which is, if you're getting other people involved, he's not looking to give you a price cut. Maybe if it got close, he'll probably maybe nibble a little bit off the cost. But by his posturing and saber rattling. What I see for Demario Davis is he's not going to give the Saints much of a deal, if any deal at all. He wants to be able to cash out and get some good paper right here. Now, I don't know if he's going to break the bank and all this kind of old stuff. I think you do have a projection of where you want to go for Demario Davis, and Demario Davis should be brought back with the Saints at the correct cost, right? At the correct cost. We figured he earned that much, but the Saints will be kind of work that thing. We know they'll do some moves that we agree upon, some moves we don't agree upon. That's just what New Orleans does. But Demario Davis should be a name. He should finish with the Saints and come back, no doubt about it. But we'll see how it goes, because when you look at the stay and go model, the Saints. Let's see if I can pull up their chart here of over the cap mentioning the Saints. Hold on, let me see if I can get that up here, because that's one of the things that I'm thinking about. Teams like, if what are they working with monetarily speaking, and that number just keep going up. Here it is right here. This is a cap check. Totally right now, as of today, the Saints are $21.6 million in the red. So the Saints will have to rework several contracts to kind of peel that number down. And like I said, there's a bunch of cap numbers that the teams could work with in restructuring some of these teams to kind of free open the cap for the team to be able to do what it needs to do insofar as to sign some of these people back. And that's the long and short of it. So do they have they obviously have a certain amount that they want to operate with in terms of what they're going to do. But if you look at Cam Jordan and all them, who the base salary is down, the cap number, you can see the cap number they estimated at 18.7 for Cam, and Demario at 14.2. What's a good contract for Demario Davis? I would recommend that they'll probably look at anywhere between 10 to 11 million dollars a season for the last season. Maybe nine to 12. He trying to get maybe 12 million a year, the final year of his deal. Or are the Saints going to pay Demario Davis that amount of money? Usually, like the last year, the Saints looking for some of these older veterans to kind of take a kind of a cutting pay, so to speak, so that the team can use the money to be able to help to get guys in free agency that can kind of help the team build up, because you don't want to sacrifice the defense for the offense, right? We want to be able to get Cam and Demario back, but at the same time, we still want to continue to draft to improve their positions. Like, even if they do sign them back, we don't want to be in a situation where we're thinking, oh man, we got Cam, next year we got to pick up somebody. No. Let's go ahead on, and in this draft, we could pick up a defensive end, maybe not at the top of the draft, maybe somewhere between 2 and 4. We can be able to get a defensive end. We can get another linebacker later on in the draft, depending on how the board falls for us and whatever needs we had addressed in free agency. But when the draft comes along, Cam is going to be there for one more year. You can be able to get a young player for him to mentor. With Demario out of here, we still have Pete Werner and Danny Stutzman. We have Jalen Ford. We also have not Nephi, but Isaiah Stallbird, and we can be able to add another linebacker to the mix in the draft. With the likes of Demario Davis being here. So I'm pro Demario. I think if he did a phenomenal job, and he should be signed back. But we'll see what Mickey Loomis does on that, because he won't be pressured on signing anybody back. And if he feels like it's too much money, he's just going to walk away from the table. And remember, even if Demario Davis didn't want to return, he wanted to go to the NFL Network, the Saints would be really cool going into next year with Danny Stutzman and Pete Werner as the starting inside linebackers. He would be cool with that. They would definitely be cool with that. But having Demario Davis there really improves. Plus, it gives us another year where we can be able to then get, add more talent there, and it still keeps your defense playing at a high level. Retain the services, man. Unless it breaks the bank, return the services. And then, of course, we move on to Alontae Taylor. Taylor's the only free agent who played more than 90% of his snaps on defense, having lined up in the slot 566 times. Safety Justin Reed was a distant second at 118 Jonas Sanker was 55. He also worked at cornerback outside on almost 300 snaps. He'd be a big loss, but the Saints have some depth at the corner between Kool-Aid, Quincy Riley, and Isaac Yiadom. Taylor will be one of the top cornerbacks available and should draw plenty of attention on the open market. Prediction go. I would agree that Demario Davis will be brung back around. I think it's just a lot of saber rattling to try to get his 1 year dollar elevated. On the Alontae Taylor front, I already think the Saints made a decision on Alontae Taylor. I think he'll be priced out of their hands. I think that when him being, depending on what free agent board you look at, I've seen the majority of the boards have Alontae Taylor listed as the second or third best defensive back in the draft. Right, his duality really helps. His interception doesn't, but his lack of interceptions, not having all of the interceptions, like he had like 4 picks for his career, that kind of hurts a bit. Because if he'd had double that, that'll look pretty good in terms of him getting paid. But indeed, this could be a situation where I do think Alontae Taylor is probably on his way out. I think he'll be priced out of the Saints' hand. Like I said, I don't control the purse strings of the team, but 11 to 12 million is good for me. But it also depends on how much money the Saints can readily restructure and free up. Right? That to me fits like what I'm talking about is how much money are able to free up because they're $21 million in the hole right now. They got several contracts to restructure. How much money could the Saints really free up, right? How much money could they really free up insofar as 21 million in the hole? I've done simulations where I've gotten the Saints between 25 to $30 million, and usually you're not going to spend a great deal of the money. And what the Saints are going to do if they sign when they sign Demario Davis and Cam back, they'll sign them to a 1 year deal with several phantom years tacked on the phantom extra years that the Saints are paying both these guys anyway. They owe money, phantom year deal money to both Cam and Demario Davis already. If we just look at Cam's contract for a second, we'll get back to the article momentarily. But if you just look at Cam's deal, look at this. This is Cam's deal right here. This is 25 and this is 26. His deal. Now the prorated signing bonus, you can see a signing bonus. Saints owe him signing bonus money, right? They owe him signing bonus money. You can see his cap hit at 18.7 for Cam. But if they extend Cam out a year, look, they have 4 years, not including 26 as voided years they owe Cam Jordan money. This is all the voided stuff that they owe Cam Jordan. So it's a lot of money. Of course they can rework it and kick it into it. They already owe him phantom deals. They'll be paying Cam Jordan money all the way up until he's 40 years old and he's 37. So when they redo his contract, of course they're gonna pay Cam. They're gonna probably give him I don't know, looking at I don't know if it'll be 10 million or something like that, but whatever it is, they can give these guys, like each of these guys, they can pay them 10 million, 9 to 10 million dollars for a final year, and then what Mickey do, he'll finagle it where he'll just pour money in on top of the voided deals. How these guys usually that's how they operate, so it doesn't sabotage the 26 cap. But whatever they do, it's going to be interesting. The Saints don't seem to be, in a rush to sign anybody. They damn sure wasn't in a rush to sign Chris Olave. That's for certain. And he was the only one that we knew for a fact. We knew for a fact that was actually doing anything, right? He was the only guy we knew. Because if you look at his Demario Davis, look, same thing. The old Demario Davis money till he's 40 years old. So if they want these guys to bring these guys back, man, uh, we'll see what the contract is. Maybe 8, 9 to $10 million per player, and then they'll put in voided years to kick the money down, and then that initial year will be less than $2 million. That's how Mickey Loomis rolls, so it don't impact the 26 cap. And that's just how the Saints do it. They know how to move around when we talking about money to get the most out of it. All right, here's some key contributors we talked about. Both those guys, Alontae Taylor and Demario Davis, is some of the star talent. First and foremost, whether they stay or go. Here's some of the other contributors. How about Cam Jordan? Jordan had a resurgence this year, rallying back with double-digit sacks for a couple of down years with Ty Grantham coaching the defensive line. He turned 37 in May, but showed he could still play at a high level. Step back. He was in the rotation, 46.6 of his snaps, or percentage of his snaps compared to the 66% for Carl Granderson and 72 for Chase Young when all three were active. Both sides wanted to get a deal done. We expect them to, and I say Cam stays. I agree with the writer on this one as well. I think the Demario Davis and eventually the Cam Jordan deals get done as well. I think we get our vets back. All right, Dylan Reduce, the 28-year-old offensive lineman, solid backup, but he shouldn't be expected to start after drawing 8 penalty flags and giving up 23 pressures. It should be worth re-signing Reduce to a 7th or 8th offensive lineman on game days. He shouldn't be a part of the starting 5, and it shouldn't be too expensive to bring him back after he played on a $2.25 million deal last year. He says stay. I say go for Dylan Reduce. I think Dylan Reduce was, if you bring in this type of offensive lineman, you want to bring this guy in to be your 6th floating lineman or a rotational lineman, a guy that comes in for a tackle that's missing, something to that degree. And Dylan Reduce wasn't that. I mean, he was slow-footed. He did better later on in the year, but a lot of penalties, just not what we're looking for, for that kind of money. And I think we can do better than what Dylan Reduce did for us in the year. It was a contract to see what he can do, a 1-year prove it deal. And to me, I just wasn't impressed with him. I think we can find a better offensive lineman in free agency. So I say go. All right, center Luke Fortner, trading for Fortner in the preseason ended up being a clutch move. The 28-year-old backup started most of the season at the center position. After Eric McCoy went down with an injury, he played well enough for the offense to function once Tyler Shuck replaced Spencer Rattler at the quarterback position. But Fortner had his share of mistakes and miscues, giving up 3 sacks and 3 penalties. Same deal with Reduce. Fortner is worth resigning for depth, but he shouldn't be seen as a viable alternative to McCoy. Stay. I think he is a viable a center for McCoy. I think he is. I will disagree with the writer. I say Luke Fortner is a good, viable backup for an often injured McCoy. McCoy is not what he used to be. When we watch McCoy play the first month of the season when he was supposed to be healthy, and I really don't believe he was healthy because I refuse to see Eric McCoy look that nine good, right? Just to be honest with you. On film, he didn't look good. He was getting pushed and munched up out of there by people. And I was like, man, that ain't never the case with McCoy. But I see over the last couple of years, Eric McCoy, I don't think he's been 100% totally healthy. They'll say on the scouting reports that he is, but when you look at his film and his play, it's not the same McCoy that I remember seeing, the same dominant Eric McCoy. The guy he looks like he's not healthy. He doesn't look like he's totally healthy. Like he looks weak. His technique is not what it used to be, and he's not nearly as dominant as he used to be. So he has all these lingering issues. He's missed 20-something odd games over several years, and it's getting old. We've seen guys where injuries run them in the mud. We've seen Ryan Ramczyk get ran in the mud. His first 4 years was phenomenal, and then he fell off a cliff. Eric McCoy is not falling off the cliff like Ryan Ramczyk did, but you can slowly see him breaking down, and you need to do something about it. That's why the Saints made the move to go and trade for Luke Fortner and giving up Bink Saunders to get him. The Saints won the hell out of that trade. Plus, they got a viable backup center who has a good chemistry with your quarterback, Tyler Shuck. There was no chemistry issues between Luke Fortner and Tyler Shuck. Those guys work really well together. And then even this mishmash line of offensive linemen, interior linemen that were hurting, we had our tackles. They were actually running the football and giving some sort of balance to what the Saints offense was doing. I can't say that about what McCoy and them were doing when they were healthy. So, no, we have to stop looking at Eric McCoy like it's Eric McCoy of 3 years ago. This is not or even 4 years ago. It's not the same Eric McCoy. This guy is hurt a lot and is suffering his play. When he gets hurt, he doesn't miss 1 or 2 games. He misses half the year. You cannot count on a center. And besides, if you look at a lot of the things a center does with the offensive line, Luke Fortner did that. He was in there handling the business for him. And that's you need to keep that guy. So I would say, plus you can get Luke Fortner. He's only 28 years old. He just got off his rookie deal. You can get him on a paying $3 or $4 million a season for a backup center that works well with your quarterback who was doing a good job in the stretch of games where you seen Tyler Shuck was just handling his business. He couldn't have done that if it wasn't for some of these players stepping up. One of those players stepping up when guys were hurt was Luke Fortner, and you should reward him. No to Dylan Redunce, and yes to Luke Fortner. Straight up. Taysom Hill, this might be it for Hill, whose last game at the Superdome was treated as the last hurrah, who hasn't looked like his old self after a major knee injury ended the season. But maybe he's finally joined Sean Payton in Denver. Maybe he takes up coaching. Maybe he goes back on Idaho. But it feels like Hill's time with the Saints is over. Yeah, and I agree with this wholeheartedly. When he got up on, y'all remember Taysom Hill getting up on the podium and crying. Y'all remember the game he was crying and shedding tears? And I was like, yeah, this is his last year. Yeah, he getting emotional because he knows that's it. His body can't handle it. He left the season, this season, with a bum shoulder. He got an injury in the last game of the year. So, I mean, yeah, Taysom is, to me, I think Taysom has made a lot of money in New Orleans. He was really grateful for the city. And if he gets healthy and comes back, it probably will be like with a Sean Payton. He made a lot of money here. I would have to say no to Taysom. I think that is run its course. Okay, more notable backups who contracts are up. Chris Rumph II, who's 28, didn't make a huge impact with a few snaps to go around at the bottom of the edge rush rotation, but the team valued his steadiness on run defense. They should look to get more out of the fourth edge rusher defender spot. With that said, Rumph played about 30% of the snaps on a minimum salary last year and should be easy to retain. I agree. Now, listen, it depends, too, because remember, it depends on whether Coach Staley, because it won't be a prize issue. You won't spend a lot of money to retain Chris Rumph II. But this is the thing. We had a guy named Fadil Diggs who's still on the team right now. He was one of the 2 7th-round selections. Matavo was the tight end we got, and of course we got Fadil Diggs, which was the last pick in the draft for us, our stellar draft. Now, what I'm looking at here is this. Chris Rumph and Fadil Diggs was battling it out in preseason and in training camp for that final spot, and Chris Rumph got it. What if it's Fadil Diggs? What if he's ready to assume the role that Chris Rumph barely beat him out of last year? Maybe he comes back because they're almost the same player, even though Fadil Diggs, to me, is a little bit faster, and Rumph is a better guy in terms of playing a run because he has a good feel on Staley's defense because he played for Staley when he was out in California. So I'm not against Rumph resigning because it's a cheap signing, but Fadil Diggs and him going at it again, that's going to be an interesting competition in training camp for that other edge position, that backup edge spot, the fourth spot. So love what he did because a lot of what we see from Cam Jordan and Chase Young and these guys balling is because the rotations kept the defensive linemen fresh. Cam Jordan was fresh in there. He was because these terrific rotations, the edge guys and the interior guys. It was a really good rotation. Kept everybody, feeling really good, well rested, and they got after it. So the Saints were able to dial up pressure and get more pressure or get more from the defensive ends because of how Staley's rotations were. And it's promising. So Chris Rumph, to me, should be a guy the Saints reach to because he won't cost them a lot of money to get him. Jonathan Bullitt, the defensive tackle. Bullitt was a late signing in the summer, wound up playing the 4th most snaps at the D tackle position. He's 33-year-old and was one of several interior defensive linemen on the wrong side of 30 who saw a lot of reps. The Saints need to get young at the position. Hopefully they have a plan for a youth movement in the trenches. He recommends him go. I said stay. Jonathan Bullitt should stay. To me, he earned another contract to come in. Jonathan Bullitt outplayed Devon Gaccio. I mean, name me outside. You might mention Brian Bresee, but what all the defensive tackle outside? And look, Nate Shepard really showed up later on in the year, right? But Devon Gaccio was not nearly as effective as I thought he was going to be early on. He was moved out of there. You seen Shepard, you seen Brian Bresee, you started seeing Bullard gain the reps. You seen them guys stepping up. Why are we talking about a youth movement in the trenches when we bringing back Demario Davis and Cam Jordan? I mean, what are we talking about youth movement in the defense for? I mean, if you want to bring Cam and Demario back, why not bring Bullard and them back? I mean, it's just one more year anyway. You're stalling the youth development in the defense anyway, and we're in truth be told, we're not stalling the youth development and defense. What the hell is Brian Bresee? Brian Bresee is still a young defensive tackle. He's approaching his fourth year in the league. He's coming off that injury. You got also Vernon Brockton. He's picked up in the third round. He's a guy. He's a part of the youth movement. That's young enough. You got Bresee and Brockton. Not to mention you got a couple of other young defensive tackles there. But no, Jonathan Bullard earned his spot, man. He deserved to come back. Divine Gacho should really be looking over his shoulder because his contract balloons to what it is. Hold on, let me pull up his contract because he's the guy that if you're making Loomis, you got to look at and say, we might have to look at Divine Gacho. His contract, it balloons from what it was last year to $6.4 million this year. We got to fix that. And plus, he also has a ton of voided years in his contract, too. He got 4 years of voided contracts on his docket. So that's the thing, of course. Either, the Saints could ultimately decide to go in a different direction, but they're definitely going to rework his contract. 6.4 for what he did last year? No. No, that ain't going to cut it. That ain't going to cut it. He outplayed Divine Gacho. That's why I said he should be, to me, Bullard should definitely be retained, man, because none of these guys, whether you're talking Chris Rump or Jonathan Bullard, none of these guys are expensive. They're not going to be expensive to keep, to bring back, right? Even at 33, if you're going to bring DeMario and Cam back, bring Bullard back. Why not? All right, and the next guy to talk about is Jonah Williams. North of 30, Williams also played 300-plus snaps in the rotation. He did have a couple of sacks and pressures in big moments. The Saints mainly valued his experience in Staley's system. Now that they've had a year to coach that up and churn the depth chart, they should look to get younger. And the prediction go, why are we kicking out the guys that work? Jonathan Bullard and Jonah Williams were two of the main reserve players, him and Chris Rump. That trio of players was huge for the Saints. Jonah Williams was in there getting sacks. He wasn't breaking the bank, but he was providing pressure. He was playing outside. They was kicking him inside. Bullard and him were handling the business. So ain't no need to talk about kicking these guys out. For what? They're cheap. They're not going to be expensive. It's not going to cost you $6 million to sign Jonah Williams or Jonathan Bullard apart. Hell, you might spend $3 to $4 million signing all three of them to come back. So why are we doing that? There is no need. Listen, I understand the youth crap. If not bringing Cam back or Demario Davis, look, we're gonna focus on draft picks and stuff like that. But if you're bringing Demario and Cam back to the team, then obviously you're not talking about doing some youth movement on defense. And the defense is really not that old. If the older players are the top contributors, that you could say that if Demario Davis was third most on the team in tackles and Cam finished with 5 sacks, then it'll be a total different energy. If Cam Jordan would have finished this year with 5 sacks and Demario would have finished with 100 tackles, it would have been a different energy. It would have been a different energy than a guy finishing with 140 plus tackles and another guy finishing with 10.5 sacks, way on the back of his career. And that's the first time he did double-digit sacks in over 5 years. But he gets them on the back of it. This would be a total different conversation altogether. So, I don't get that. If you're going to bring Cam and Demario back, you should bring Chris Rump. You should bring Jonah Williams and Jonathan Bullard. These guys were huge in the rotation. These guys knew Staley's system to a T, and they were really big in the success that we see other players like Chase Young and Cam Jordan have. These guys were part of the rotation, especially in the back end of the year. Remember, we had the Demario Davis and K. Adams interview where they showed the statistical breakdown of what the Saints defense was after week 8. Guess who was a major part of that as a reserves? These three get men on the screen there. So I would say yes to all of those guys coming back because it won't cost no money to bring those men back. It'll cost you a combined maybe three. It'll cost you a combined $4 to $5 million to sign those three men to bring them back. It wouldn't cost them a damn. It wouldn't be expensive at all to bring those guys back. I assure you. Foster Monroe, one of the few tone setters the Saints had on offense, but he didn't get many touches. The second tight end from that position. They can get more out of this position group with Jawan Johnson remains on top of the depth chart. Foster Monroe is a good locker room guy to have around, but the team should explore options here, so he should go. I agree. Foster Monroe, to me, last year on flashed on film, he was missing blocks. He wasn't finishing blocks. And I was like, you're not catching the ball. If you're not catching the ball, you cannot afford to miss blocks. And that's why Jake Stahl came to town, was to be the blocker. But then Jake Stahl started missing blocks. You cannot miss blocks if you barely touch the ball as a tight end. Your main thing has to be getting the block. So hopefully whoever the Saints bring in, we got Matavo. Matavo did a very decent job of being. They lined him up as fullback. He was the backup tight end in the back of the year. I like what I've seen out of Matavo. We got to improve on his blocking. A big target. Love to see 6'5" Shuck find 6'8" Matavo in the end zone, maybe, down the line. But whoever the veteran or whoever the Saints decide to pick up to bring as a veteran to the team, or whoever they decide to draft, the guy has to be a dominating blocking tight end that sets tones to help us out. But that is a key metric that we really need to focus on going into it. If we acquire tight ends in the draft or free agency, we have to make sure they are tight ends that are mean blockers. Now, they had Mason Pline. Mason Pline was one of those guys that he was a free agent now, but he was one of those guys that was an athletic tight end that you can use a little bit at the fullback position to put him at a tight end. Then he had some athletic ability where you could kind of make him an inline tight end a little bit. So there was some duality for Pline. Now the Saints look like they're going to have him. He's not signed with the team, but the reality is you can see the thought process of where the team wanted to go with that type of player. And maybe, hopefully, in free agency or even in the draft, we might be able to line up and get that kind of guy. How about other people in free agencies? Terrell Burgess, 28-year-old defensive back. He played 11% of his snaps, 22 tackles, 10 solo, 3 passes defense. Did well on the small sample size and should return on the minimum salary unless he gets a better offer. I am for bringing Burgess back. Burgess looked real good in training camp and even in preseason. He's a cheap, experienced safety that you can never have too many of them. Very inexpensive. Bring him back. Dante Pettis, 31-year-old, 10% of the snaps played, 9 catches on 11 targets, 127 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 13 punts returned for 79 yards, 6.1 yard average, 15 kicks returned, 351. He averaged 23.4 on the punt return. His prediction is he should go. We can do better. Saints got 11 or 12 wide receivers in here. Something tell me they're going to add some more people. Might be a guy in the draft they pick up. Might be a guy in free agency you pick up. The Saints are serious about turning the wide receiver, adding serious competition from the wide receiver position with Tyler Shuck being here. Hopefully they have that same energy for the offensive line, right? All right, defensive tackle John Ridgeway, 27 years old, played 6.6% of his snaps, 11 tackles, 3 solo, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 quarterback hit. Prediction, go, agreed. If you bring back guys like, remember we gave up draft picks to get him, some of that we got back. But the reality is John Ridgeway showed what he can do. We still have Christian Boyd, Vernon Brockton. I already advocated for the signing of Bullard and Jonah Williams to come back to the team. We talked about Brian Bresee being healthy, and I'm pretty sure the Saints will add some more help there some kind of way. But yeah, John Ridgeway, I would definitely say he can go. Michael Davis, that's the 31-year-old veteran tight end, cornerback rather, that they signed. He played 2.2% of his snaps, 4 tackles, ended the season on IR. It didn't take long for Davis to climb the depth chart and win a role on special teams after the Saints picked him up in midseason. But an untimely injury cut things short for him. If healthy, he should return to compete for a roster spot. I have no problem with it. This is a smart, physical, older veteran cornerback, very smart player that had some connection with Coach Staley out there on the West Coast. So not against bringing Mike Davis back to the team. He'll work for cheap. Hugo Amadi, 29 year old. Amadi's role has diminished from last year, but and this is true. It had really. I remember a couple of years ago, Hugo Amadi was the man. He was occupying that nickel position. Remember, he was starting at the nickel spot. Last year didn't do anything under the Staley defense, and he wasn't a big help on special teams as they look for Staley to go in another direction when they're rounding off the depth chart secondary. Hugo Amadi, get ready to see the last of Hugo. I agree with that. He went from starting at the nickel position from barely seeing anything, not making an impact in too many places, and usually that'll get you out the door. He might end up going to find Sean Payton. That's what I could see. Mason Pline, 26-year-old, ended up on IR. It wouldn't hurt to bring Pline back if interested, but he may want to choose his spot after the Saints claimed him off waivers in the first place. We don't know. Mason Pline's interested. We'll see, but we'll see where the Saints end up. That's either way for me. Will Clapp, I think Will Clapp need to go. 31-year-old ended his career on IR. Clapp was a priority in free agency. The Saints kept him around throughout his rehab rather than choosing to cut him. When an injury settlement, if he's healthy, bring him back to compete with Fortner. I don't think I want Will Clapp back at 31. I think Luke Fortner at this point of his career is better than Will Clapp. Will Clapp had his chance. I think we need to move on. Either we address the competition behind the center, either by drafting a guy in the draft that can play center and guard, or if you bring Fortner back, sign a guard, like not the actual starting left guard, but sign a guard with competition ability to go at Cesar Ruiz on the right guard position, like open the right guard position up for a spot. I've been speaking that into existence because we really need to have competition because they won't remove his job. They'll never claim that he played bad enough for them to bench him. They'll always just kind of look past him on film. So all I can say is just open up his spot for him to be competed with. That's what I'm saying. Will Clapp is gone. We need to find somebody else, either in free agency or possibly in the draft. Right? Let's keep it going, man. Right tackle Landon Young. Nope. Need him. He can skip rock. He can kick rocks too. 29-year-old ended the season on IR. Young is similar position to Clapp. Went down. He went down early. The Saints traded for Akeem Richards to replace him. It makes sense to bring him back if he's cleared to play. Not to me. Landon Young done. You stick a fork in Landon Young. We got Akeem Richards. We got Xavier Truss, not at the tackle position, but there we got two of those experienced offensive linemen. The Saints going to add an alignment, more than likely a couple of offensive linemen in free agency, and we just keep this thing going. We know we'll pick up one in the draft, and we'll get a couple of undrafted guys as well. So no to Will Clapp and no to Landon Young. We got enough injured type guys on this team. We need guys that's willing to play. When they made the move to get Akeem Richards, that told Landon Young, hasta la vista. The problem with Will Clapp and Landon Young and guys like that, you can't count on them. You can't even count on them, and they got damn backups. So how you getting hurt as a backup, and then you done for the year? I mean, how can I count on you as a starter? Then starting reps would just tear your little body all the hell. So no, we gonna go in a different direction on all that beautiful stuff, and that's the call. Shout out to Sigler with that scoop as well. All right, let's jump into the Senior Bowl, man, and talk about the Senior Bowl. And of course, man, I don't know if y'all know it, but Slick Mickey made an appearance up in Mobile, Alabama, talking about the Saints. Like to hear it go. Let's listen to old Mixter. Here we go.
Between the Senior Bowl and the East-West game, and it is a good advantage for us because we get we get a lot of good information on the players that are here that they coach, and it's a good experience for our staff and good for our personnel department.
And what do you just coincidence that they all ended on the same team, or was that kind of the
No, I mean that's part of the deal, especially when Joel Thomas gets named head coach of one of those, that he's going to want to have some people with him that are familiar with what he wants to do. So that's by design.
What do you think led to the success last year with last year's class, and how much better do you think it'll be just having all the coaches here start to finish and everybody being able to have the input from now all the way through the draft process?
Well, look, that's a credit to our to Jeff Ireland and our college scouting staff, all of our personnel department. Look, it's not our first rodeo. We've had plenty of good drafts over the years, and hopefully this last year was a good one. It was a good first year, but let's wait a few more years before we judge that.
Mickey, how much can a guy move his needle here? Or how much did
Yeah.
Tyler move his?
Yeah, I think I don't know how I don't know how you want to measure that. It's
I don't know.
most of the work that gets done after the season is usually an affirmation, a confirmation of what you believe already, and so that's just part of the process.
You talked about how much of an advantage, it is to have guys on the staff here.
Yeah.
Were there any kind of specifics that you've noticed in the past that, like, advantage-wise, is it just based on the extra time they get to spend with them, information they report to you? Like how does
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Yeah, certainly, after the week, our coaches will come in and we'll talk to them about every player that they coached or they crossed paths with here, and at the East West. We had some coaches at the East West game as well. And that'll just go as part of the evaluation.
Some of the guys here at the Senior Bowl, do they fit kind of the prototype of what you're finding? Just over the last 2 years, it seems like you guys have been, the guys that have been able to contribute right away have played in this game, have done this week. Does it say something about the guys that are participating in that kind of fit what you guys are looking for?
Yeah, I don't know that. We'd have to get a lot more specific as to each individual player, but look, number one, the players that are here are good players. They're almost all going to get drafted. They're a lot of these guys, most of them are going to be at the combine, so it's just part of the process.
How do you guys plan on handling the unique circumstance of Doug being on staff and Garrett being in the draft? Like, when discussing Garrett specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But look, Garrett's a really good player and thought of really well, and obviously we think a lot of Doug. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't think we've ever had that circumstance before in my 40 years in the league. I don't recall where we've ever had a coach with a player in the draft. Maybe we have, but I can't remember it.
Did there ever evolutions with the league that change how you guys view positional value? Does some ever go up and go down?
Yeah, I don't think you would say it was dramatic, but I think there are little nuances and trends that go over the years that influence you. But yeah, for the most part, it's still the same.
I know you guys took the time to evaluate the players and whatnot, and penny rate, whatever. What kind of positional needs are you hoping to address? On a higher.
We haven't finished that process yet, and actually, all the coaches being here have kind of delayed that process for us by a week or so. So I can't really answer that. Not that I would anyway.
Have you pulled out staffing changes at this point, or how are you?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen, but unlikely, I think.
Have you all decided yet what your plan is with your options for running the team?
Yeah, we'll get to that. We haven't, again, we just, we're early in the process here, and timing's a little different this year because of the number of people we have at this game, but we'll get to that soon.
Any early impressions on this year's class of players?
Yeah, look, I think that there's a really talented group here, just like last year. I think the last couple of years in particular, it feels like,
right.
I don't know this for a fact, but it feels like.
Sorry about this
a lot
sound
more
suck,
players
man. This is from Channel 6.
That's a good thing. Just it's more information for us, and we get to do interviews and get to talk to these guys, and it's been a really good thing.
That's right. Oh, it's a lot of goodness going on out here.
Yeah. Feels like it. It feels like that's a
feels good,
confirmation of that so far. So, but again, we're so early in this process that it's hard to make any definitive statements about anything really.
Demario went on Kay Adams the other day and kind of indicated that he's maybe open to testing free agency. Where do things stand with him, and do you anticipate that happening?
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I heard it. Yeah, look, we love Demario. Want him to be back. I hope he's back, but yeah, we'll get through that.
He didn't ask you this at the end of the year press conference, but how was Taysom doing in regards to that injury he had at the end of the season? Was that serious?
Yeah, I don't think so. I haven't got another report on it, but it didn't feel like it was a real significant.
Has he communicated plans?
I've given him some space, so we'll touch base with him soon. But it's hard to have these conversations right after the end of the season. You want that emotion to go out of it. You want to give guys some time and space, and not feel like they're pressured to make decisions. And we've got time. So
With see this idea of surrounding Chuck with like explosive weapons or juice. I know that's probably the goal every year, but what do
Yeah.
you think specifically about kind of like that idea that you guys might need more juice?
yeah, I just I think look, we got a young quarterback, and you want to have a good defense. You want to have great protection up front, and you want to give him playmakers to get the ball to. I mean, you'd want to do that for any quarterback. So, yeah, I don't think that's yes, that's the goal. Absolutely, it's the goal, but it's a goal for every team with every quarterback.
And then circling back to Doug and Garrett, is that something where like you would ask him to like leave the room?
No. It's not like that. It's look, we want to help the Nussmeier family,
Right.
period. So, but again, it's unique. It's going to be a little different than we've had to deal with before.
You did a team recently in that situation, right?
Dallas.
Was it Dallas?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Hughes Vaughn, yeah, Chris Vaughn, yeah. I'm sure. Then that was really cool seeing in Dallas when that happened, when they took him. Anything else?
Anything else? Oh, all right. You guys have a blessed day. All right. I didn't say anything about my damn sweater. All right. Anyway, that's Channel 6, man. That was kind of impromptu for them kind of popping up with Mickey, and Mickey was answer some questions. The sound is not that great, but I just wanted to give you some game because they asked a few questions about Taysom, and as you can see, Mickey talked about Taysom and talked about the progress that he's making in terms of his health. Also, he made some commentary about the staff. We were saying, are there going to be any changes to the Saints coaching staff? Meaning, in terms of the special team situation, right? And there's still several teams that the Browns just named their head coach. We'll cover that. There's still a couple other teams that's looking for coaches that's trying to fill their staff. Do they come knocking at the Saints organization? That's yet to be determined. But in terms of if there is going to be a change in terms of the assistants, a lot of people are pointing squarely at Phil Galliano, the special teams coach, who just completely just looked awful. The block punt and the special teams performance against the Falcons, the punting performances throughout the season, the fact that the kicks leading Blake Group A to get released, and for us to find Charlie Smith, which was happy too to see, finding Tyler Shuck, getting Charlie Smith. He'd been positioned on the practice squad for a very long time. And this is the thing. Do we make a change at the special teams position? But it appears that Mickey Loomis and the staff, Kellen Moore's choice, it's really Kellen Moore's call, who he wants on his staff, is going to allow Phil Galliano an extra year to clean up those mistakes, man. So at least we realize, losing Rashid Shaheed, one of our best returners, Blake Group A getting kicked out of here because of poor kicking, Kroger, him being a player that at first looked good, now his punting has suffered, this kind of thing, and needing competition at the punting position. It's a lot of stuff from a special team standpoint that just went really down. A lot of the special team statistics were bottom of the league. So he had his head on the chopping block, and whether or not, they wanted to go in a different direction, they kind of just made the easy hire because he was here, right? So Kellen Moore had some more time this offseason. A lot of people thought that he would go in a different direction, but it appears like Mickey Loomis says unlikely that they'll get rid of Phil Galliano. So that's some stuff to talk about as he's in Mobile during the Senior Bowl thing. And speaking of the Senior Bowl, as we keep this thing moving along, here's a kind of an update and talking about it. Y'all hit that like button, man. We up in this thing. Senior Bowl practices for 2026 NFL Draft, best QB and prospects available. Tuesday was the first of 3 days of Senior Bowl practices, Mobile, Alabama, with more than 100 of the top prospects, front of coaches, scouts, and personnel from all 32 NFL teams. The Pro Bowl is an invite-only showcase of upperclassmen prospects and an important step toward forming a plan for the 2026 draft. So this is a few of the things to kind of talk about. They have the coverages of the practices on ESPN2 and all this other kind of stuff. So this is what a few of the people, the scouts that were at the bowl, talked about Tuesday. Well, this is Tuesday's a breakdown of it, but some of the mentioning some of the big takeaways from this week's performances in the Senior Bowl and rating some of the best players like Caleb Banks from Florida, T.J. Parker from Clemson, Hunter, and others, and how they played and how they had some pretty good performances. They talked about Cole Payton, who was from North Dakota State, lefty passer, two of the most important impressive throws of the day. Caleb Douglas was also a guy that played under center for North Carolina State and from Texas Tech actually, and was playing and did a pretty good job in practice, throwing the ball and doing things on the move. Now Peyton displayed his accuracy and mobility in multiple sessions. Peyton suffered a broken thumb on his throwing hand during the Bison's loss in FCS playoffs, showed no signs of the injury. Peyton carries grades as early as the round 4 as a big athlete that some teams mention as a project worth selecting in day 3. Now, here are a couple of the standout prospects. Colton Hood, the cornerback from Tennessee. So he's the top-rated player at the Senior Bowl. He stepped up Tuesday, showed patience and confidence, a one-on-one set and turning and running with opposing receivers with ease while not being beaten not once. He's 5'11", 188 pounds. Junior was the number 18th ranked player entering the week, solidified his status as the best player in Mobile. Throughout position drills and team settings, the Buccaneers, Jets, and Lions all looked like strong landing spots for him in the middle of round 1. Lee Hunter is the big defensive tackle from Texas Tech, looking for right now the wow first impression at all All-Star games, and Hunter delivered it during the team drills. Lining up as the one technique, Hunter absolutely demolished interior offensive linemen with that first step power, rocking back the blocker shoulder and easily gaining the ground. The backups, what we saw on tape during Texas Tech run to the CFP this season, 6'4", 325-pound Hunter currently ranks number 29th on the board and boasted his stock even further on Tuesday, according to the scout. How about some wide receivers or a wide receiver? Ted Hurst from the University of Georgia State. Given that he played at a small school, he provides a unique opportunity for Hurst. The guy is 6'3", 200-plus pounds, made one of the best highlight catches, one-hand sideline grab. Hurst's fluidity, especially given his size, has scouts intrigued, has a strong run-after-catch player, too, which is something we could use. With a strong pre-draft showing, Hurst could move up into the 3rd round from his current spot, which they view him as a day 3 prospect, according to Yates. How about a defensive end? Edge rusher from Clemson, T.J. Parker, viewed as one of the top defensive players entering this season, right? Parker didn't have the season many envisioned, with the sack total falling from 11 in 2024 to 5 this past year. He took a positive step toward reviving his draft prospects on the first day of the practice Tuesday. The 6'3", 260-plus pounder displayed power in his hands. That strength was present throughout multiple periods of practice. Scouts view Parker as a top 40 prospect who could sneak into the back of round 1. An interior offensive lineman, that'll be nice. Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech, after playing guard exclusively during his career at G-Tech. 6'4", 320-pound Rutledge took snaps at the center throughout the practice Tuesday. Rutledge shows comfort with snapping the ball and demonstrated that he can play any spot along the interior, answering one of the biggest questions scouts had about him entering the Senior Bowl. So when you talk about the New Orleans Saints and when you mention some of these players, remember, names come to mind. Like we talked about, Keelan Rutledge is a guy you watch has a degree of athleticism. He's not a super athletic guy, but he's a bruiser at that position. Remember, they had other guys that did this same thing that got drafted in the 4th round. His name, I ain't going to even say his name because the guy can't stay healthy. But in the end, could he be a guy? But like when you go and you watch the Senior Bowl, you watch some of these players in these type of settings, the Saints are looking at these players on boards. These guys pop up on the same boards. When you talk about Nick Saldiveri, and guys like that, he showed out in the Senior Bowl, which got him drafted. The Saints had where they picked up Saldiveri, so we can never discount the Senior Bowl because how the Saints really draft people out of the Senior Bowl. So I can really see a guy like Lee, maybe not Lee Hunter, but Ted Hurst, because I think Hunter will maybe be going. I mean, he might be a 2nd round guy, but guys like Ted Hurst in the 3rd round. Even I think T.J. Parker, he could be there, and even Keelan Rutledge. Some of these guys, maybe 1 or 2 of these guys can end up on the Saints draft board. We'll see. the quick hitters right here. They talk about in Senior Bowl. They talk about the offensive linemen slowly, weak slowly while defensive linemen explode onto the scene. It's best to allow offensive linemen to settle in. That's what happened with Bo Stevens from Iowa. The guard prospect had a rough rep against Hunter earlier before settling down and winning with leverage and power against Zane Durant for Penn State in one-on-one. So Stevens is a day 3 prospect, but showed impressive poise Tuesday. Speaking of Durant, I must single him out for his first performance. He's 6'1", 290, DT who won consistently at the 3 technique position with quickness and leverage throughout the practice and had a good group of interior linemen to go against. Durant currently sits as a day 3 player on the board, but looked more like a top 100 prospect in the initial pressers. And a lot of these guys are rated low right now, but wait till they get to the NFL Combine and their own individual pro days. You'll see some of their stops either elevate or some of their stock come down. That's how this goes, right? Also, to talk about edge rushers, Nadam Tucker, Western Michigan, caught my eye multiple times, and shout out to KT because KT mentioned Nadami Tucker to me. He mentioned him and sent video from this guy. So the high level competition, 6'3", 250-pound Tucker entered this week as the event's lesser known name, but opened many eyes during the practice. He could interest teams looking for a mid-round pass rusher. Tucker is somebody to talk about. What about Malachi Fields from Notre Dame? The best offensive player on the American team on day 1, officially measured at 6'4", 218 pounds. Fields used this frame well. He challenged multiple times at the line of scrimmage during one-on-one against the corners. His physicality showed up. He was able to fight through jam attempts prior to making strong catches. Fields carries a mixture of mid to late to day 2 grades as a prospect who continues to trend upward. That's great size. I don't know what Malachi Fields' 40 time is, but I've seen film on Malachi, and he's a good guy that make the contested passes, physical guy, has some yak to his game as well. Tough to bring down kind of wide receiver. But in the end, I don't know what his 40 time is. We're going to have to look at that. Wide receiver Kevin Coleman Jr. from Missouri had a strong day as well. He's well-traveled. He started his career at Jackson State, then transferred to Louisville, then went to Mississippi State before landing at Missouri. Coleman is a smooth route runner, spent time on the outside, in the slot during the practice, looked comfortable fielding punts. And speaking to scouts, they said Coleman is primarily viewed as a early mid-day 3 prospect, which is where, we can see. So I think some of these guys will end up on the Saints draft board, watch. Or even not, if not on the draft board, as an undrafted player, if they happen to slide through the cracks, I'm telling you. And according to Yates, he said Zion Young from Missouri brought ferocious energy to the one-on-one as he showed the power that made him a great player. Young wins with the knockback power and length as a rusher. We talked about him early on, which he used to land offensive tackles on his back in 1 rep. And they thinking he will be a round 2 pick. And Jennings Dunker is the next in line of the talented Iowa offensive lineman, and they like what they saw about him in pass protection in practice. Donker showed good lateral agility and length to ward off those edge rushers, plus a toughness to even finish on the reps, as well as off the charts. He had the mullet going on, is another day 2 prospect according to the scout. So a few things to kind of talk about there, man, but at the end of the day, some of these names, man, will end up on the Saints draft board, and that's what it comes down to. And like I said, a lot of these names are going to climb in Senior Bowl. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. All right, y'all hit the like button, man, on this Thursday stream as we keep it going, man. Much love to the fam. And here's some more content to talk about. NFL coaching hires, grades, Browns landing Todd Monken. Remember, we talked about yesterday warning the Browns not to take Schwartz. And what happened? They decided to go in a different direction and surprise everybody by getting Todd Monken, right? So Monken was a surprise choice because he hadn't been getting any buzz this offseason after the Ravens failed to make the playoffs. He doesn't have NFL coaching experience, but was a Southern Miss head coach from 2013 to 2015. He's a longtime offensive coordinator. It was a part of 2 national championship teams at Georgia before coming back to the NFL to guide the Ravens offense. He'll have his work cut out on a team that had poor quarterback play the past few years, but Monken has a good reputation as an offensive mind, even if he was overshadowed by other candidates into interview process. Now, with Cleveland landing Todd Monken and with him working with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you know, it's one of these situations where I think, and like I say, you're dealing with the Browns. A lot of people were looking at them and saying, "Hey, man, listen, uh, we don't want." It was a few people. I think Anthony Lynn was one of the candidates that they talked about as well, and they had the offensive coach, the offensive, I think, coordinator that worked with the head coach of the Rams as well. He was mentioning it. We talked about it on the previous stream. But the Browns, I didn't. Schwartz is a bad fit for him, and of course they had some stuff going on with Schwartz reportedly fuming after not getting the Browns job. So he's a sore loser. He was upset he didn't get the Browns job, and the reason was, man, come on, bro. People need you. Let's go in a different direction. Now, actually, this is a hire that that's respectable. At least is on the right side of the ball. The Browns defense is it needs some help, but the Browns defense get after you thanks to Garrett. I mean, they do have some pieces on that defensive side. They got that terrific linebacker in Schlesinger. They had the great year for Myles Garrett. They got other talent from the defensive line back to the DBs. They got talent on that defense. They needed help on the offensive side. Now that you have Pro Bowl quarterback Shedeur Sanders as your leader, your unofficial leader going into 2026 Cleveland Brown people, you have a decent offensive line. You have to go about the business of building and getting weapons for your young quarterback, adding wide receivers, adding some help with the tight ends, getting some, adding running back help, and being about the business of doing that. Now, Todd Monken is as good as you can get for the Cleveland Browns, I imagine, but at least he has the experience. He had a lot of winning in Baltimore, and a lot of times the Ravens would beat the Browns. So for him to kind of cross over and become the Brown coach, we'll see how Coach Monken do. But he has experience working with Lamar Jackson, and those Lamar and Shedeur is two different kind of quarterbacks. But he does have an idea of what he needs to do from an offensive standpoint to generate offense and move it in the right direction. And like I said, in my opinion, he's a better hire than if you was talking about going to get Jim Schwartz and make him the coach. He ain't done a damn thing. He had an opportunity to be a coach, and he just stunk at it, So, I mean, I don't know what he's fuming for. Go to college and build yourself up. All right, so anyway, that's the call with the move. Monken will be tasked with turning around a franchise that had just two winning seasons over the past 18 years. The Browns' most recent quarterback to make the Pro Bowl was Shedeur Sanders' curious selection during that period, but you got to respect it. That's the game. Monken joins the Browns after spending the past 3 seasons as the Ravens offensive coordinator. Baltimore has been incredibly successful under Monken, ranking 4th, 3rd, and 11th in points scored over 3 seasons in Baltimore. Prior to that, Monken served as an offensive coordinator with the Browns and the Bucks. His time with the Browns lasted 1 season as Monken was not retained after the team fired Fred Kitchens at the end of the 2019 season. Todd Monken has work to do, right? Given the importance of the position, the quarterback would also almost certainly be the biggest issue facing the Browns now that a new coach is in place. No, it's not. You're not going to have access to a quarterback in the draft there that high. So cut that out. There aren't any really good quarterbacks that you want to sign in free agency. I mean, if you're looking at Willis or maybe something like that, I don't know. But and it'll look really suspect if you say that your Pro Bowl quarterback Shedeur Sanders, even though people don't believe he shouldn't have got it, it was the selection was curious. Okay, I give you that, but I'm thinking it was done because of what happened on the front end of it, how they treated him during the draft, and this is feel like makeup stuff that's kind of happened. But you can't deny the fact that he is going to play in the Pro Bowl, and it will look suspect if you say, okay, we got this guy, and this Pro Bowl quarterback right here. Why isn't that guy obviously the starter? So it kind of puts the Browns in a certain situation where they have to kind of line up and say that this guy is our quarterback. Not so much Deshaun Watson. You got to get up off there. I think he got 1 year left on his contract. He was a disaster. But you got to obviously pivot to Shador Sanders being your Pro Bowl quarterback. It looked really sketchy if you don't uh, kind of have him lined up as the top guy, so to speak, right? But that's been a big problem with the Browns the whole time, working out the QB disaster that they've been building the last year, right? So we'll see how they do it. But both Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett was shipped out, leaving the team with Deshaun Watson, soon to be second-year passer Dylan Gabriel, and Shador Sanders in 2026. It ultimately be up to Monken to make the decision on none of those players. Which one of those players have performed well enough to guarantee themselves a role? If it's a Pro Bowl quarterback, it's Shador Sanders. I don't know what they're talking about. The Browns immediately gave Watson a fully guaranteed 5-year, $230 million contract. Shortly after the trade, thank you, Browns, because the Saints under Dennis Allen was trying to get this guy, and really it wouldn't have been him coming to New Orleans. He was going to go F Atlanta up because he was using the leverage. He had no intention of coming to New Orleans. He was using Atlanta as leverage to kind of build a super team before the Browns stepped in and gave him all that guaranteed money. And boy, what a disaster that has been since he's been there. So the man got some stuff to work out. Like I said, you look at the numbers right here between these quarterbacks. Shador is listed as a Pro Bowl quarterback coming into the season. I don't see how you not see him as the number one quarterback. So, but that's the least of his concerns, like finding the right quarterback, putting everything in place and going from there. And Todd Monken says he think he can fix it. But like I said, the defense is a bright spot. When you talk about all the goodness like that happened on defensive side, yeah, their defense is good enough. They just need to get that offense together. Need to get that running attack together. That quarterback position is a big part of why they're not having the type of success they need to have in Brownie land. So the Browns, they named their coach. Let's see what Todd Monken can do for the Browns, right? What could Brown do for you? What could Todd Monken do for the Browns? All right, let's get into this one. This is the final article. Y'all hit that like button as we keep this thing going. Tom Brady latest to slam Bill Belichick's Hall of Fame snub. How about that? And this is one of the things to talk about. Tom Brady joined the chorus of voices questioning Bill Belichick's snub from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, saying the voting committee decision is completely ridiculous. You know, he voiced his opinion on the Seattle radio station and made mention saying that it was, I don't understand it. Said Brady, who played under Belichick for 20 years. I mean, I was with him every day. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, there's no coach that should ever be a first ballot Hall of Fame, which is completely ridiculous because people deserve it. He's incredible and all this kind of stuff. So quarterback combination, we talk about Bill Belichick, Brady. Of course, he's going to lift them up. But the reality is that Bill Belichick was, before he went to North Carolina, before he had this personal excursion that's going on recently with all the stuff that's been going on, and me personally, you can't deny him based on his resume in terms of what he did, the Super Bowls he won, the games that he won, and the impact that he had on the pro game, right? That gets you in. The reason why I think he's snubbed right now is because, boy, a lot of stuff, and you cannot say, well, how isn't Bill Belichick a first ballot Hall of Famer? Because what's going on now, you can't tell. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Even Tom Brady said that. Well, look, Tom Brady, let me tell you why it makes sense. It makes sense because they're not looking at Bill Belichick's resume, obviously, with multiple Super Bowls and wins and what he did. That gets you in. The issue with the New England, with Bill Belichick is not getting into the Hall of Fame on the first voting is because of what's going on currently. That's what's going on. Remember how he treated the New England Patriots when he went to the North Carolina Tar Heels to take up that coaching job? Y'all remember how that ended? All the stuff that was said back and forth and a few things that was happening there kind of pissed some people off, right? And sometimes people can get petty, and if you piss the wrong people off and enough of them, they'll shut the door in your face like they did Bill Belichick, right? It's a lot of stuff. The recent stuff that's happening with the North Carolina stuff and all this, if you don't think there's a connection to that and the little personal stuff he got going on, then you're tricking yourself. You're fooling yourself. Because Bill Belichick's resume alone makes him a first ballot Hall of Famer. Come on. They didn't drop the ball on this one. They didn't allow him in on the first time because of what is currently happening and the things that happened after he left New England to take the college job. Is this whole little situation, you can wrap it up all in a big nasty ball And that is the reason why he pissed off a bunch of people. Go look it up. He burned some bridges. He pissed off a bunch of people. He got pissy with the New England organization and other people that was connected to it. And whoever it was high enough to kind of put the snub down on him on the first go around. He'll probably get in there on the second go around. Who knows? But to snub him, and that's Bill Belichick, it's no other explanation than that. It's not it's what's happening with him recently. The North Carolina stuff, how he burned bridges with New England. You know, remember all the stuff he was saying? Y'all not allowed here on this and all this kind of stuff. Remember that? There you go. So it simply is what it is, man, at the end of the day with Bill Belichick. He's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I understand the game, man. I get it, man. When you piss off the wrong people, man, they can make it difficult for you. And obviously, he pissed off the wrong people. And that's my take. All right. Anyway, man, that's all I got for y'all today on this episode of The Coma. Y'all do me a service by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and the share button, and the notification. Just light all the buttons up. If you push the little tab there and drop all the buttons, just press all of them. Make sure they lit up. And also, shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma with Big Q. And check out FanDuel, the app, whatever y'all want to get your prop bets in, or you want to bet, period, the NBA, NHL, college basketball, soccer, WNBA, MLB, tennis, UFC, all that is available on FanDuel, the best and the largest in terms of betting, man. Right now, you take a look at the odds for the Super Bowl, and you can see as the Patriots are a 4.5-point favorite on the Super Bowl. Just to let you know, man, go and check it out if you want to get your bet in. Check out FanDuel, man, for all your betting needs and moves. And also for the family members that want to support the show, you can feel free to support us at patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. That's patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. You can go there and check us out. We got all kind of lot content, as you can see. TSC Q&A Live. We have the On Q with Big Q show, breaking down that real deal spiel. We got a new episode of On Q with Big Q that'll be showing up tonight, matter of fact, for our Patreon people. That's only on Patreon. And I mean dozens, man. It's like 500 or more pieces of lot content available, documentaries, all that on patreon.com/the Pro Media Network for supporting the channel. And it helps grow the movement that we are. You guys can see it's a lot of improvements going on. We continue to move forward, man, and handle business and continue to represent you in the correct way. So if you like what we do, be a part of the movement, man, and join us at patreon.com/the Pro Media Network as well. And also, we got a bunch of new merch that's coming out. It's a bunch of new merch available for our Pelican people at the Pale Shop, man. Y'all can check that out. Links in the description section. And we got some new gear coming up for the Saints coming up real soon that I think you guys are going to like a lot. So y'all going to be able to check that out. We'll have more of that coming up as well. So with that being said, man, I'm going to get out on that. Listen, I appreciate you guys, man. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the share button. And I'm going to holler at you on the next one. Much love, peace, and who that is.
Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with thehootetdaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit thehootetdaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to The Pro Shop, where we create authentic, NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping The Pro Shop, The Pel Shop, or The Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.